Alright, we are live. Agda, get started off. And Prague, my podcast for I like your politics. That's from the Christian answer. Very influenced by conflict. Fired him. The world fired him. What's going on in Tel Aviv right now? All right, gang.
Yeah, I love magma as well.
Welcome to the show, comrades. I started that off with some magma.
It's just after my 5 a.m. That is chaotic energy right there.
I use this exact song for my 5 a.m.
I used to listen to I used to have Gojira Flying Whales begin my day at like 6 a.m. in high school, and yeah, that was kind of brutal. I think it did developmental damage to me. Anyways,
so today we're joined by Derick Varn, and we planned to talk about the essay. Hey, how's it going, Varn? Anyway, we plan to talk about the essay, The Paranoid Style in American Politics, which we will talk about today. But there is a lot going on in the world. And
yeah, that's an understatement. That's a fucking
broke out Friday night. Sorry, what was that, Jean-Mil?
That was a fucking euphemism if I've ever heard one.
Oh, hold on. I think your internet was lagging behind me there.
Who, me?
Varn's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I think we're good now. But yeah, no, there is a lot going on in the world right now, to say the least. Yeah, the regional war that we all kind of saw coming has finally come. We've talked about this for a while. And it's absolutely insane what's going on. We've hit Dubai, they've hit Jordan, Tel Aviv's getting hit. The UK has joined in. And hold on. Looks like Varn is not.
Yeah, it looks like he's freezing up. Yeah,
he's freezing up on us. Hold on. Hey Varn, are you hearing me? Shit. Yeah, it looks like we're dealing with some technical difficulties, guys. So deal with us here, but
I hear now. I think the lag should be taken care of.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm now hearing you. So anyway, Varn, how are you doing? What are what are you thinking about the insanity that's enveloping in the world around us?
I think he may have really thought he could pull a one and done assassination through air power and just walk away with Iran while going after, the leader of the 12 Shias for the entire planet, and not think that would have any repercussions. And maybe, I've tried to think, like, what if he's playing, he being Trump, or somebody in the Joint Chiefs or something is playing like 30-dimensional chess. But from what I've seen in the last 2 days, they can't be. Israel may have been, but we have been a pawn in that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to me because this was the war we were sold as not having through him. Yeah, because it was clear that even though Harris had taken a relatively reconciliationist stance towards Iran during the Obama administration when she had no power, that she was gearing up for some kind of military confrontation in her rhetoric and with the police power, with police powers and stuff too. But this seems like, even from the standpoint of our dumbass empire, kind of amazingly short-sighted. And that's saying something.
Yes. I mean, everybody I know, no matter how much they see themselves as an American patriot and like want to support America thinks that this is stupid. I honestly can't find like anybody that I actually know in person who thinks that this is a good idea.
Yeah, they barely tried manufacturing consent, honestly. Like it's who knows what percentage of the US population actually supports this. I don't even think this is red meat for the Chuds. I don't even think the Chuds really want to see this war.
I think it's splitting the Chuds. I mean, it's hard for me to tell off of Twitter because I also know half the Chuds are bots on Twitter or like hired Pakistani agents or something. But Bangladeshi, not Pakistani. They have their own war to deal with right now. But it seems to me like this is going to fracture MAGA's already fractured coalition. It is going to get ugly no matter what happens, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I see in no way can it seem to be good for global political stability, the market, capital in general, who are going to get hit. We've already seen them getting hit over this.
I mean, they closed the Strait of Hormuz,
right?
They've already like actually lived up to their threat or their promise, which is they've already struck tankers. So yeah, that's going to create a lot of market volatility. I don't know who the hell is asking for this. Basically, just Netanyahu.
It's just Israel at this point.
These insane people who want to see the whole world burn.
And it also gets really hard to argue against the fact that the Israeli tail is wagging the American dog, right? Because it's pretty clear that
it's the simplest explanation. And
as much as I am loath to admit it, I have to agree with you. Like I can't. I've tried to play this out like, on the American Empire benefiting from this, because we know there's faction in the American Empire that's wanted this for like since '81. But I'm like looking on my American Empire benefits from this Howe chessboard, and I'm like, I really don't know. Like, I'm at a loss for this one.
Yeah, because when all is said and done, if Israel gets everything it wants out of this war, we now have a regional rival in the Middle East, basically. Greater Israel, right. Unless we can somehow keep Greater Israel as like our police dog in the region. But we've already shown a complete incapacity to restrain Israel when we want to restrain them. So
I mean, that's just the hilarious thing is that over the years the Islamic Republic has just become factually less and less antagonistic towards U.S. empire.
Absolutely.
It's made every overture possible to try to get access to international markets because it is just desperate for foreign investment. So, and actions like this just completely just make it increasingly impossible for the U.S. to neutralize Iran. I mean, they had been, under Obama, it was a big step towards doing precisely that. Right. So, I mean, and already, I mean, just some of the news, like the school that got struck in the south of Iran, and they're speaking about over 100 dead children. It's just
barbarism. It's hard to use we're fighting for Iranian women modus operandi when you kill at least 60 Iranian girls. Like it's I mean,
barbarism. Yeah, it's just barbarism. And seeing the Iranian diaspora like just cheer on their country getting just bombed, like what? There has to be an Olympic competition between the worst gusanos in the world, and on the podium, competing for gold, you have the Cubans on the one side, and the Iranians on the other. Just bomb parts of large swaths of LA and Miami. It'd be a better planet for it.
Oh man!
I mean, just imagine being the kind of dog who cheers on your country getting bombed, thinking that somehow this is going to help your country at all. These people.
Well, a lot of these people have never been there.
Yeah, and if they have, they actually, a lot of the monarchists just have nothing but deep contempt for them.
How deep do we think monarchist support is even amongst the diaspora, though? That's one thing I don't know. I don't feel like it's super high amongst, like, I know a lot of Iranian diasporas, and
There's a lot of hate for the monarchist among the diaspora, but there's also people in the
I don't know. I think there's.
I'm also pretty far from LA, so I have no idea.
I think there is a class basis to it. It's like a generational thing. It's also a class thing. Like how I feel like there was a wave that came right after the Islamic Revolution that especially like bourgeois are deeply like are monarchists like to the hilt.
That's true.
I also heard that within the country there are swaths of younger Iranians who have some kind of nostalgia for the monarchy because they see it as a better era, but older generations there's less of that generational tilt for older generations because they remember Savak, they remember the Shah, they remember the torture regime, the secret police, et cetera, so they have no love, right? But
they're not swayed by the most expensive party for the Persian Empire that was ever recorded in history that doesn't like win them over since they had no access to it or anything.
Yeah. I mean, and the White Revolution, despite like all of the bullshit, was successful, and et cetera, and Savak was extremely brutal. So yeah, no, people remember that. People remember that. Actually, and they spent the Shah. People don't also understand that it's often like characterized as this modernizing regime, but a huge part of the modernizing was just they spent so much goddamn money on military equipment. Like at a certain point, actually, they had spent the Germans loved them, but at a certain point, they had bought like so much military equipment that I think they had like the 5th largest military on the planet or something insane. Like so. This is like recorded in Kolakowski's. I think it's called I think the book is called The Last Emperor. Yeah, like the Bertolucci movie. The Last. Wait, no. It's this Polish journalist, Kolakowski is his name, who wrote a very interesting book. He was on the ground there during the Islamic Revolution.
But yeah, Kilgore makes a point that the media is also probably playing up a lot of these diaspora and how much they are on the side of the Shah.
I'm interested in what the media does in response to this, because I mean, one, how much is the American media still relevant? Two, one of the things that have changed is it's been consolidated largely in the hands of weirdo right wingers. I mean, like you look at Paramount, for example, it's. But three, I don't know that the right's going to have a consistent response to this at all. I went on. It was funny watching MAGA chuds, bots, Bangladeshi actors. I don't know. Call Tucker unprincipled for standing up against the strike. Which I was like, man, that's about one of the only principles he actually has. But I was also like, I suspect that most of the people I know who are more on the MAGA train, and I live in Utah, so I know, not an insufficient amount, are going to be pretty divided on this. I don't know a whole lot of people who wanted this war. And it's actually weird because right now in America, it's almost like people barely believe it's happening. It feels very different than like the lead up to Iraq, where everybody knew and you had people gung-ho about it. It's like, example, the one poll I've seen on this is like 40% of Americans support. They're almost all Republicans. 31% oppose. And then I'm like, so 29% don't have a fucking opinion?
Yeah,
like good.
Even in a fake poll, that's weird. Like, particularly since 2 days ago, 80% of the population opposed the war or something. It was between 70 and 80%. So I'm like,
well, Americans also have this stupid thing where it's like, oh, well, we can just assassinate their leader. I'm fine with that, like.
Great.
Yeah, they don't give they really at this point it's actually kind of incredible. Okay, so two things. One, I want to say the book I was talking about is called Shaw of Shaws by Kapuscinski. It is, from what I remember, I read it a very long time ago. Short, brief, pretty good account.
Okay.
Yeah. Second thing is, one of the things I find also just, and it's something that any activist will know, is that polls, for the most part, because of the weakness of civic institutions in the US, people's opinions are incredibly volatile. And like, I'm sure everyone here knows that, having like talked to people on the ground, if someone is not cadre, if someone does not have like a deeply sophisticated political worldview, it's pretty easy to get them to just agree or disagree with whatever. And so I do, this notion that polling is kind of like a thermometer or something, like it's like people's political opinions are like temperature or something like that. You could just stick a thermometer in and just get this number that's just true and stable about the system. It doesn't work quite as well with, I don't think that polling does that. But so it is, I think it's fair to say that beyond polling, though, people's enthusiasm is not high for this.
Yeah, people's enthusiasm isn't high. There is like one thing I've heard is people being up like, oh, the government killed like 40,000 protesters. So, I guess until we've killed as many people as that, we can't.
It is actually deeply shocking to see how Americans have, before at least, there was this liberal pretension, and this liberal pretension that, oh, the US follows international law and is the guardian of international law, and it's what makes us good and great. And now it's like, nah, we don't give a shit. We can kill whoever we don't like, whoever we think is immoral for whatever bullshit reason, because they're a dictator or authoritarian. And it's a really depressing, I don't want to say it's depressing, but it's naked and honest, but at the same time it's, I don't know.
The
it's
fig
also
leaf of the international law, and which has always been a fig leaf because it's treaty law. It's, like no one can enforce it really. My great theory about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was that it was actually designed to end nation building, not just for people you didn't want to build nations, but for anybody.
at the same time, like, one of the things that does characterize fascistic thought is
state of exception logic all the time.
Exactly. And basically scrapping bourgeois rule of law, et cetera. And even though bourgeois rule of law has all kinds of limitations, and we could make a day-long criticism of it, fascistic might is right is worse, and it's more difficult for us to organize under those conditions as well. So this is just kind of another extension of how just like fascistic thought and politics is just seeping in everywhere right now. It doesn't portend good things.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I think is interesting in contrasting societies, and I say this as a person who reads Hebrew and can actually check what these citations, but you were bringing up nostalgia amongst young people for various other things. I think we see this in America for nostalgia for all kinds of stuff, from the 50s to Stalin, really. But what's going on in Israel with the youth is terrifying. And it's not just Ashkenazi youth that fit the like nice, clean picture of, oh, it's the European settlers and they're the no, the Mizrahi are just as bloodthirsty, if not more, according to every stat I see, and it's getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
Like,
they're getting, I mean, like, Israel had never been a genuinely progressive country, but they make, like, we were talking with Rob about this. A lot of what people don't understand is like a lot of Salafi and like Wahhabist kind of Islamists are
they're
actually
quietists. They don't do
they're
shit.
pretty quietists. They're sort of like, okay, what we're gonna do is just like bully everyone in our community to read nothing but Quran, and let's leave all of the secular politicking to like all of those like kuffar who like can just do their thing. We're gonna be holy in our little community. No,
Yeah.
but like they're quietists, but these like Jewish supremacists are fucking insane, and it's becoming increasingly common and normalized in Israeli society in ways that are just super scary.
I was
Like
actually,
they make Salafi look fucking well adjusted.
I was actually about this. One of the things about Jewish supremacy that I think a lot of people who aren't from the Jewish community don't know, is that there's now like 4 or 5 variants of it that are opposed to how you're going. Like, if I was going to divide up Israeli politics right now, like the difference between the Shahs, the Sephardi and Mizrahi religious supremacists versus like Ehud Barak and Kadima supremacism. I'm like, well, one of those is basically European blood and soil stuff, and that is the liberal one.
Yes.
The other one, you know, reads the Tanya, which is a Hasidic work that talks about.
Oh, that's the Kabod one.
Yeah. How like Goyim don't have souls, and
Yeah, they
you
come
shouldn't
from a
accept
satanic spear.
Yeah, and you shouldn't accept. Now, I'm gonna say, because I, you know, since I read Hebrew, those are not majority opinions of American Jewry at all, but they are coming up in the diaspora. I mean, not diaspora. What the fuck you even call the settlers in Israel? It's very strange now, you know, as someone who kind of moves around the Jewish community a lot and used to go to shul when I was way younger. My own background is like I've dealt with Jewish supremacy most of my life because my mom's not Jewish, mom's Goyim, and she was a convert and she reverted, and so amongst certain groups, I'm like, well, you don't count.
Yeah, I guess technically by the law, you have to have your mother be. Your mother has to be Jewish.
By halakha, it's through your mom, and except like this is actually gets into internal divisions amongst Jews because Reformed and Reconstruction Jews in America got rid of that rule partly because they were dying out without it. But the thing is, though, is like one of the reasons why I quit going to shul a long time ago was that unless I became like a Satmarite and moved to New York, I pretty much was told that by going to synagogue, I was actually part of the greater nation of Israel.
Yeah,
like, which I'm definitely not and have no interest being in and never have. You know, like I realized in high school that like, there's something to this logic of Zionism that would seem to want to actually increase anti-Semitism so that I would go make aliyahs to prove that we can't live anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it's
this idea of like of preventing Jewish assimilationism, basically.
Yeah.
It's really what the founders of Zionism were concerned with was not so much the survival of Jewish people as individuals, but with prevention of Jewish assimilationism in the modern world. And so
there's a somewhat underknown but kind of devastating quote by Ben Gurion saying that if he could have saved all the world's Jewry by moving them to England, or only half by moving them to Israel, that he would have chosen the latter.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So
it's the level of the religious fanaticism of modern Israel. I mean, you read Israel Shahak in Norton Mezvinsky's book in on Jewish fundamentalism in Israel. That was written in 1999, and it talks about Baruch Goldstein and his massacre at the Cave of Patriarchs, and he goes into a lot of background information on just how much power he was able to kind of build up within the IDF.
Didn't Ben Gvir praise that massacre at some point?
Yes.
Wow, what a normal country.
Ben Gvir had a portrait of Goldstein.
What a normal country. Like, imagine you had what was that fucking guy's name who went into the black church? Dylan
Roof.
Yeah, imagine there was a politician in the US who didn't just like dog whistle that they like that shit, but literally it was like, yeah, Dylan Roof is a hero. That's
give it 2 more decades.
yeah. I mean, at
Mo.
this rate,
Yeah, pretty much. We're already reaching that point in this.
yeah, but that's the kind of shit we're talking about, right? Like in terms of just religious fanaticism and racism, and it's just,
I was reading Zeev Jagobinsky, the leader of the Irgun, and if people know anything about the history of Israel, like you know, he's basically
no, he was he had people in his core and milieu collaborated with the Italian. They like admired the Italian.
No, they,
Right,
had,
I was
they
gonna
had
say-
a naval academy in in Italy, the Beitar Naval Academy.
Yeah,
I was about to say they're basically, I mean, they're basically fascist, and
no, they are. You're right. They're like Herderite, fucking, blood and soil nationalists.
but one of the things that I found shocking is the rhetoric from Jagobinsky is actually more moderate
Yes.
than the rhetoric out of most of the Israeli political spectrum today. Like,
Just,
I mean, seriously, because like Jagobinsky at least thought there was a place for Palestinians in Israel.
Yes.
He says,
so in
he
Israel
says
today,
what?
if you read Jabotinsky as a liberal,
What?
that's
like,
wow.
it's crazy. Like Israeli leftists will like talk about how Jabotinsky is actually misunderstood as a right winger, but if you read him, he's actually pretty liberal, and
What an
he has
insane society.
So,
I know.
like, yeah, it'd be like if I was like John Calhoun, American liberal, like
Yeah, that's
part of our
yeah.
centrist tradition, which may kind of be true, but in a bad way.
Yeah, actually, like
Um,
Porto might take you to task with that. Yeah. Actually, the real liberals were the Southerners.
So I think we can't get around the fact that like it's hard to explain what's going on without reference to Israel. And there's also, if you want to talk about the political morass of the U.S. empire, there's increasingly a faction that is not so quiet that they're getting impatient with the Israelis.
yes,
Elements of the CIA are kind of annoyed.
Tucker
aren't they?
Carlson, elements of the CIA, like
Tucker Carlson, yeah, the public face, yeah. Gladstone did like Calhoun. Yeah, there was a lot of liberal British admiration for the Southern cause. It's like the cause of freedom and blah blah blah.
Yeah, the Economist newspaper was really on the side of the South for a whole lot.
Yeah, what did Lenin call the Economist? The rag of bourgeois millionaires or something like that.
Yeah. And I think, when we think about this today, I mean, we are in this real tough situation where, like, okay, how do we explain this without Israel? How do we deal with this stuff without when you look at the Epstein files, because we're talking about paranoid style today, I'll go there. And like, yeah, I don't really believe that there's a satanic cabal of cannibals in the Epstein files, but that's true. And
Yeah.
and
the thing that
it
kind of
implicates that the Mossad is like all over 7 or 8 different intelligence agencies.
the thing about the whole like cannibal satanic cabal shit is like, someone will be like, oh, did you see in the files that there's a satanic cabal? And you're like, I don't think that's true. But at the same time, it's like, I mean, it's physically possible. And
It's also might as well be true given some of the stuff we know is. So
yeah, we don't know, but there's a ton of other shit that if you had told people that 10 years ago, they'd be like, absolutely not. That is true. So we're like, we're like living in, we're living in a Kafkaesque universe where we can't really know and anything is possible. And it's deeply maddening. It's just driving me crazy. Most likely there's not they're not, Hillary Clinton is not munching on a baby, like it's probably not the case.
Yeah, I think there is definitely I think a lot of people have been afraid to just openly and frankly talk about the situation with Israel and how they've been able to basically take the US empire and through these these deep political machinations, they've basically been able to weaponize US foreign policy and in their interests. And I think that, there's obviously other complications and other factors to look into here, but I just think that there's undeniable.
There exists a parastate, and there, it's become clear, And Israeli intelligence has become a force within U.S. politics in ways that are not transparent, that are not open, but that have major effects geopolitically. And
The one thing I will add, though, is like I do think there is like a broader kind of morass in the U.S. empire that's been going on since like the fall of the Soviet Union, where there kind of is no telos or direction for policy. Like it's like we finally defeat like our main rival. We've built up this, this whole edifice of institutions. And so it's like, so where do we go from here? And it's like, well, the war on terror becomes that answer, that kind of purpose for the US. But that war on terror policy is basically created in collaboration with the Israelis for, their whole purposes.
I mean, the US. No, go on.
No, I mean, it's as a person who's been like on this war on terror stuff, one of the things that I've been pointing out to liberals is like the entire architecture that Trump is building have come from three places: Nixon's stuff in the 70s, FDR, we need to be honest, FDR, and the war on terror framework. All his domestic shit was based on that. I don't know why we're surprised that he's going in the same way neoconservatives would have gone. I was talking about neoconservatives on Twitter the other day, and I'll talk about the problems with Twitter when we get into paranoid style even a little more. But like, I was like, the neocons seem to have gotten all their policy objectives, and then Donald said, well, they did get sidelined. I'm like, you're right, they did, and some of them now aren't even as pro-Israel as they used to be, which is fucking weird. Bill Kristol criticizing Israel for anything is not something I put in my cards.
John Bolton has expressed concerns about Trump's Iran campaign. Did you see that?
Which is okay. That's probably just politically craven, but pretty fucking funny.
There's not a war John Bolton has not like had an orgasm over. Quite frankly, like that guy lives for war. So
he's probably just jealous that he's not in charge. But
he's like, I don't get to kill Iranian.
And like express any concerns about it. Like
I can't kill like an incredible amount of Iranian children. I'm just so sad.
Does anyone remember the 2015 policy papers of Trump? Did anyone ever read those? Because I did. And one of the things that was interesting is way back then, he actually was talking about pivoting towards having better relationships with Iran and worse relationships with Saudi Arabia. And he immediately dropped that. Like that. But it's interesting that he even felt the need to signal that way. But as I said to many people, I'm like, one of the ironic things about Trump is for all the sidelining of insiders and putting incompetence and power and he has somehow given the GOP their aughts political objectives in one area, and it's the area that does benefit Israel. And that's something I haven't been able to square, because I've always been on the line prior to this that Israel was an extension of the U.S. Empire. But one, it was very clear to me in the last, 6 years that Israel's actually playing a bunch of different governments against each other, including Russia and China. And this has been a hard thing for the left to deal with, period. Is like, wait, like, why isn't China doing more against Israel? Like, they talk a good game, they don't do anything. Why isn't Russia doing anything?
They're not even playing the geopolitical game right in a certain way. Like they're just like, let's produce like fair and competitive, competitively priced electric cars, and then we'll be the global hegemon, or we'll be powerful. It's like, nah, man, you're gonna get hacked apart by U.S. military empire. You'll have to step up, do something, fucking show. Just, God damn it.
Yeah. As I was talking to one of my, I'm a moderate China defensist, but I was talking to, I'll say one of Gabriel Reichel's students, and he was like, China's like Picard. And I'm like, well, we need, and then I was like, well, we need someone who takes more action. It's like, well, do you think we need China to be Cisco? And I was like, yes, we do. Like, if you want to be a hegemon, you at least, you don't have to start wars, and I hope China doesn't. But you at least have to be like, there's lines. Like,
you do have to throw your muscle around a bit.
I mean, Iran, Iran constitutes, I think, something like 20% of China's petrol. That's a huge. That's like if Iran gets destroyed, that's going to have a huge effect on the Chinese economy.
Yeah, I mean, nothing would globalize this war more than China getting involved, though. Like, oh my God! Like, imagine this is what triggers the war with China. That's finally been.
No, listen,
we've all been waiting for.
I don't want that, but like at the same time, they're going to have to be a bit more forceful, if only to defend.
Oh, I totally agree. They need to show real leadership. They need to, they need to show some muscle.
I mean,
one of the things would be like using their muscle economically in BRICS to punish the BRICS nations who are in the Board of Peace, because there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you'd at least expect them to pull Soviet-style counter pressure.
Yeah, I mean,
which
with Russia,
I haven't seen a lot of. Like,
yeah, I have expectations from China. I don't really have expectations from Russia because, they actually have connections with Israel.
Oh, but when people talk about, Western diasporites in Israel, and they're like, oh, the Americans, I'm like, no, I mean, like, there's more Russians in Israel than
that's exactly
America. Most American Jews are still in America. Like,
yeah. I think it's like 2 million of the Israeli population are Russian speakers. It's a very big number.
Well, I know some of them are legit, like not even Jewish. So like, yo,
a lot of
people out of the collapsed ass Soviet Union, and put on a kippah and pretend we're fucking Jewish.
I mean, that is kind of the milieu that Trump was connected to in New York City in the real estate industry. Is all of these Russian, Israeli expats in the real estate industry that
important link
connections and connections to Israel and connections to Chabad Lubavitch. And so everyone talked about how Trump was owned by Russia, was a Russian asset. And he does have connections to people who have connections to Russia, Abramovich and Lev Leviev. But those guys have probably stronger connections to...
It's Chabad Gate, bro. It's not Russia Gate.
It's Russia, Chabad, Israel is really what it is.
I mean, this is one of the things that I was always found ironic about Russiagate, because I was like, okay, most of that was false. Some of it may have been a little true. But, like, can we call the elephant in the room that we've all known since, like, John Mearsheimer wrote The Israel Lobby, which is not a perfect book, and I think it absolves the United States of too much, but, like, we know that the Israelis are manipulating our shit constantly.
Yeah.
Like, and if you don't know that now, after the Epstein files, because, I mean, the three things that I think are, yes, it is, and it really is horrible, the sex trafficking elite cabal, but the amount of financial crimes tied to Israeli intelligence that we know about in the files that come out of Epstein's mouth himself. I'm not talking about weird reports to FBI that we haven't been able to verify. I'm talking about emails from Epstein himself. Has been kind of like shocking. And now stuff has come out like, oh, he was hanging out with Ehud Barak so much that Mossad bugged his apartment. I mean, even if we don't know he was an agent because we can't find a handler, we know he was an asset. We know it. Like,
oh, but Michael Tracy said that there's no evidence that he was a pedophile, no evidence that he was in Mossad.
Oh, man. I mean, look, I never took Tracy particularly seriously, but there have been times where I'm like, oh, he does have some journalistic cojones. This is just totally like, I'm never listening to what that man says again.
Yeah, same. Like, the fact that, it's just absolutely baffling. Anybody is like trying to like stick up for Epstein or like play that card right now. It's just, I don't know what that's about. I don't know what that guy's motivation is there. Like, maybe he is really just that contrarian. But
I don't know. I mean, I have some friends on the right who told me he's actually been paid off, and I'm like, I don't know that. So but, and again, we're talking about paranoid style, but one of the things that I was thinking about rereading Hostet with paranoid style for this is like, well, what do you do when like most of the conspiracies are bullshit, but some of them are really true, right? And us figuring out which ones are true and which ones are false are almost impossible. And there's every incentive in media to basically either pretend like there's nothing happening or pretend like you know everything from this, and also get on the Alex Jones train, because let's be quite honest, it's lucrative. I was listening to Tim Dillon today specifically for this podcast, because he was talking about AI, literally talking to Sumerian demons as a way to create a god against the Chinese creating Sumerian demons.
Yeah, oh my God.
and how like all the working class is going to get screwed by this. And I'm like, it's funny that in America, someone with kind of populist inclinations like Tim Dillon can literally only talk about this in terms of demonology.
I mean, it just shows you how like we're just like sliding back into like feudal peasant.
I was about to say, it's like so peasant brain.
Like we're like
the stereotypical
demons.
Yeah, we're like literally like the
peasant brain without the peasant virtue, though.
Without the peasant virtues.
Work.
Like
peasants would get their pitchforks and they would burn down the manor.
All the like toxic like individualism and narcissism, which is like none of the like community orientation at all. But at the same time, just like feudal modes of thought. It's like, I mean, I know that there's a deeper conversation to have about just, blah, 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 destruction of reason, Lukács, et cetera, but it's incredible how so much popular thought is sliding back into like peasant feudal modes of thinking and magical thought. It's
what is weird though is it's not being accompanied by the social. I mean, I'm not a big fan of like organized religion, but like it does have social control functions. We're getting all the irrationality of it with none of the community, not just of the peasantry, but like these people aren't going to church.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. No, I know.
Well, in the medieval. Yeah.
No, go on,
ahead, Joseph.
I mean, at least in medieval times, periodically the peasants would, do jackeries and whatnot.
Yeah,
like they dragged the ruling class out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were brutal. They were fucking brutal. No, but the other thing is like, the peasants couldn't read. What's our excuse?
Well, to be fair, if I'm looking at the stats, a lot of us can't read anymore either. But
by design, they were like deeply ignorant and illiterate. And I mean, okay, it's not as if like there's it's not as if we, the education is breaking down in many ways and it's not doing what it needs to be doing. But I mean, we can't argue that we're more ignorant in many ways than back then.
We have access to information on a scale that they could never imagine.
Yeah.
And that's actually weirdly part of the problem somehow. Like
it is.
It's over socialization.
No, but the incredible thing though also is like you were saying Tim Dillon. Think about Candace Owens. This is the most popular social social commentator. This is the most popular YouTube channel, I think, political YouTube channel in the world, not just in the US, in the world. And she makes her career off saying shit that she just pulls out her ass. That
Charlie, like the National Enquirer won the culture war. But we were all focused on the wrong culture war, and secretly the National Enquirer is the one that won.
It's like shit about X-Men and Charlie Kirk time traveling, and it's like what?
Well, be somewhat fair to the average working person. How the hell are you supposed to make sense of the Epstein files? And it'll make you seem like that Charlie Day meme with all the connecting dots, Yeah. Like, how are you supposed to make sense of this?
Yeah, but it's one thing to like be confused by the Epstein files. It's another thing to jump into like magical thinking that goes against everything we know about the world, like time travel and fucking X-Men mutant abilities and shit. At a certain point, it's like it's God. I don't know, man. It's
We're being reminded that peasant brain is cool, guys.
No, peasant brain is not cool. My grandfather. We got out of that shit. I'm not going back to the desert. Fuck that. I'm not going back. I've evolved. I'm not going back to that shit.
I don't want to go back to the idiocy of rural life.
For real, man. Like my grandfather did not die so that I could be a dumbass peasant. Like he died so I could have an education and get somewhat enlightened, et cetera, and read a damn book. No, but it's so bad, man.
But yeah, it is a good point. It's like, how do you make sense of all of this stuff? because people don't, the average person doesn't understand Marxist theory, and even people that do understand Marxist theory and historical materialism and who have studied history in various eras and have a sense of the grand scope of how, you know, modes of production and epochs of historical change emerge for social factors. You know, that's such complicated stuff. And most people are just going to be playing with poop when they encounter this stuff. I don't want to sound elitist or whatever, but like,
I mean, you need
people who do have that knowledge, like we encounter the insanity of stuff like the Epstein files and, you know, the utter like insanity of this current war with Iran. And it does kind of just feel like you're just groping in the dark, you know.
Well, let's be honest. Like high level historical materialism of that sort is not going to help make sense of. I mean,
That is true. Yeah,
we have sort of been using class analysis to explain like what a Jeffrey Epstein is, but in all of its granularity and absurdity, I'm not so sure that historical materialism can account for that. You know,
Yeah, this
like,
is still a
yeah.
mystery.
I think Thomas Pynchon in many ways is more useful.
Yes. No, there is a need just for the raw empirical data of looking at the actual connections and networks and how power actually works in the concrete.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I
it
think
does
we
look
all
like
gotta
a
take looks at that.
conspiracy at first. I mean, it really does. I mean, like when you, for example, in '64, when House started running the paranoid style in American politics, one of the things that I wanted to do was actually to defend the American paranoia just a little bit, even though I think it's ultimately irrational.
Yeah.
But like the OSS and the CIA really were like recruiting any interesting person they could possibly fucking find at a university at that time. When you go back and like look at the artists from that time period in the 50s and 60s, you like had a relationship to the CIA, had a relationship to the CIA, had a relationship to the CIA, and it does make you sound crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's like, wait, are you telling me that William Buckley, Gloria Steinem, Terrence fucking Kenna, all had documented relationships with the American intelligence agency? Yes.
Wait, did you say Terrence McKenna?
Yes, he did.
I actually did not know that. I knew Timothy Leary did, but I did not know Terrence McKenna. That's funny.
It's like almost every boomer celebrity you've heard of has at least some ties, because also the CIA was just throwing money around to get influence wherever it could.
Right.
Like, but and when you learn that, it does. I mean, it makes you paranoid. Like, the bourgeoisification.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, it is true that during World War II in the OSS, you had Wild Bill Donovan, who was actually recruiting communists, and a lot of those communists actually did, or communist adjacent guys like Herbert Marcuse, which is, you know, one character who actually did have a pretty big role in the OSS at a certain point, and was actually an author of some pretty big documents.
Right.
Or co-author of some pretty big documents. I mean, I have been reading Gabriel Rockhill's book, which is,
Me
you know,
too. I will say it
problems,
is,
and I'm not going to like defend it full on. Cosmonaut's going to run a review of it soon.
Okay.
But you know, it does have a lot of interesting information in it that I did not know about. And
I would say reading that book that it confirmed some of my suspicions, and if people weren't trying to use it to explain why Western communism didn't take off, I would actually pretty much think it was a good book. My issue with what people try to explain with it, because I'm like, it's still interesting who's not in there. I was like, I haven't found any of the weird, like, we know that there was a lot more CIA people in the regular old communist rank and file shit, both in the CPUSA and in the Trotskyist movement. We know that happened through COINTELPRO declassification, and yet that isn't in the book. And I'm like, okay, that would be more important to me if I wanted to explain. Like, the book that actually talks about that the most is Heavy Radicals, which is about the creation of Avakian's RCP. And you're like, holy shit, did they have spooks in the CPUSA? Like, it was like 5,000 people, and probably 1,000 of them were somehow connected to COINTELPRO, or whatever prior version of it was, because And it is interesting how it works, because one of the things that I try to tell people is very rarely are the intelligence agencies like actually, you know, putting you in situations to get killed or anything. What they're doing is encouraging you to act sectarianly, or are encouraging you to do something obviously illegal that they can arrest you for.
Yeah.
Like, now there are times the Panthers and the American Nazi Party is actually where that is not true, where they went a lot further. And weirdly, because I have this strange penchant for reading right-wing literature and biographies of right-wing individuals, but I did not realize how much the OSS and the CIA in particular, was all up in George Lincoln Rockwell shit. And that they had people that were on both sides, that were like double agents for the CIA and both the communists and the American Nazi Party. It's crazy. So, you know, I say this, but I also tend to be against conspiracism, because I think you do end up in this world where you start thinking that like this is about individual bad actors, of which there are plenty, but it can lead you to the idea, if you just replace this with more honest actors, that you wouldn't have this situation. And I just don't think that's true. I was reading Michael Parenti. Now, I don't love every Michael Parenti book. I'll be honest. I'm not as big a fan as a lot of other people. But I was reading some of his talks on conspiracism. And, you know, he was talking about being accused of being a conspiracy theorist. For just, you know, doing basic Soviet defensism stuff. And I was like, well, in some ways we're like that today, where like we do sound like conspiracy theorists when we talk. We do sound like the people with the Charlie Day and the boards now. But I ultimately think the reason why this is happening is we have a decadent capitalist class who's empowered a decadent ruling class that's gotten played by various geopolitical powers who've been able to utilize human weakness and a decayed elites who are not even good by bourgeois standards, because they've been so sheltered. They've been able to shelter themselves so thoroughly from society that it would produce paranoid shit. And reading the Hofstetler book, I mean, you know, he talks about fear of the Illuminati, he talks about the anti-Masonic movement, he talks about anti-Catholicism. And then, you know, he talks about populism and money power. And, you know, almost sounds like Moshe Postone when he implies that being too concerned about banks is anti-Semitic.
Right.
And I was like, well, yes, it is true that anti-Semites played with anti-banking interest pretty thoroughly. That's been historically true. Even on the left, Sorel was really bad about doing this. But I almost think that like one of the problems of Hofstetler is like some of his points are very valid, but he almost just throws out the baby with the bathwater about elements of American society that would lead you to conspiratorial belief sets in the first place. Our bourgeoisie has been pretty craven, even in terms of the bourgeoisie's history. And all bourgeoisie is craven. I get it. Like, I'm not, but like ours dropped its historic mission pretty quick. I mean, you think about like the bourgeois party in America. What is the bourgeois party in America? It's a Republican Party. The Democratic Party is actually weirdly it's a bourgeois party now, but it's never been a workers' party, despite what some people might try to tell you off of weird FDR fantasies. It was a party of like what we might call lumpenized yeoman classes,
Right.
And then the Sun Belt
interest as well,
right? Yeah, and it kind of got into labor through a bunch of historical accidents involving the People's Party liquidating themselves into it through William Jennings Bryan in a time period where that wasn't obvious. I mean, people think it's obvious now, but I'm like, the Democrats were still a segregationist party. And like at the height of, like, we're talking about even before Jim Crow's fully instantiated, like there's still Confederates alive when they do this. And then the Popular Front, I guess for the same reason, you know, and from FDR move into there too. So that is part of why the Democrats get associated with workers and the left. They had a kind of paradoxical relationship to the labor movement, going all the way back to John Lewis supporting FDR in 36, but they were not historically a workers' party. They were a weird, you know, they were a party of special interest, which is kind of what they are now. But look at what our bourgeois party is like. It compared to, think about the Lincoln Republicans, which, yes, there were some crazy fucking people in the Lincoln Republicans too in the 19th century. I get it. But think about them versus like the party after Goldwater. And even think about conservatives, because yeah, you know, we're complaining about Birchers and all these things, which led to Goldwater. This is written in 64. Goldwater really is around this time. He comes back in 68. But like, Goldwater sounds completely fucking reasonable compared to some of these people today. Yeah. I mean, he even sounds reasonable compared to some Bush people, much less Trumpies. Like, you know, I'm at a loss.
Yeah. That's where we're at.
Yeah, I think like the Hofstadter piece, you know, he starts out with the anti-Masonic stuff, and this you know, this kind of anti-Masonic mania within the United States. And he points out that yes, there were like these kind of Illuminist sects within the Masonics who were followers of Adam Weishaupt, and you know, they were basically kind of like proto-communist, like Enlightenment types, basically people that we would have agreed with if we were alive back then. Honestly, like they didn't like organized religion, they were for reason and materialism, and they even were described as being disdainful of property rights, which, quite frankly, yeah, it sounds like proto-communism. And sort of all this kind of paranoia among the yeoman farmers that the Masons represent this secret society that's going to destroy their traditional way of life. And so you can kind of, I think Hofstadter is kind of maybe trying to like paint like there's this kind of like Protestant tradition in America of kind of a peasant brain, we could call it even. That's like very afraid of being dispossessed of his traditional ways, very weary of cultural outsiders, and kind of projects this big cabal that's you know, the agent that's working against all of their personal interest and stuff. And one end, it's like you do see this type of thinking within American conservative thought even today, obviously. And on the other hand, it's like it is a way to dismiss actual investigation into real power and how it works, I think, because the reality is he talks about the populist movement, which for all its faults, you know, the populist movement of the 1890s was a genuine attempt to deal with real money power in this country as it was manifested in Congress.
Yeah, and the ruination of a lot of like smallholder.
Yeah, the ruination of small farmers. So it was based in rational interest, and so
you know, and it's a typically liberal in the sense of you know, U.S. liberalism. It's a typically liberal move to be like, reality is more nuanced, and there are many, you know, history isn't made by any single group. It's the product of all these different interests colliding. So it's like subtended by this like pluralist conception of the state. And time and time again, whenever people, you know, oppose that, and on the one hand, like Marxists, where we say, actually, capitalists don't always function. First off, capital dictates the dynamics of our society. No one capitalist,
not capitalist even. Like,
but if you look at things, you do see that the capitalists are by far more, like in general, more aware of their interests, and very often do collaborate together. They do enter into conspiracy in order to affect the state, et cetera, right? And it's not magical thinking to point that out, right? I mean, there's something called the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. You know what I'm saying? Like, they have means of coordinating. It's not always harmonious, but they do have means of coordinating.
Well, I think that's what makes the essay kind of read very quaintly, even by the standards of 1968. Is that it sort of poses as this idea that there's reality and then there's whatever the paranoid style people think of conspiracy, without actually taking into account that, you know, there are conspiracies, like you're saying, and people are responding to an attempt to understand reality through that sort of prism. But not only that, it seems to me that nowadays you have to contend with conspiracy in order to understand reality. There's no other way.
Well, as we were saying, it's a mode. You know, if conspiracy means the bourgeoisie, some bourgeois people acting together under, you know, the auspice of secrecy, then in order to realize their interests, then conspiracy is a very normal part, or very normal.
Right.
But
it's very normal for the bourgeoisie to do that, right? The problem, of course, is positing too much coherence or unity amongst, you know, all of the bourgeoisie. But like, conspiracy is obviously also like built into the fabric of something like the U.S. state. Like, what else is a secret service? What else is the secret police?
Right.
It literally functions via conspiracy. It organizes in secrecy.
But even more so, like in 50 years, when they write the history of this time period, there's going to be a chapter about Epstein and the Epstein files.
Absolutely.
There's gonna, you know, like it becomes unintelligible without considering that. Well, but just the final thing I'll say is that in Hofstadter's sort of thesis, or what he's saying, what happens when the paranoid style becomes the dominant mode of thinking and expression of politics? He speaks of it as a fringe. It's not a fringe anymore.
Yeah, it's really not. So there's a difference between recognizing conspiracy in history and something that we can label conspiracy thinking, right?
Yeah,
and I think that the problem with, I mean, there's so many problems that go with conspiracy thinking. Like Varn was talking about, Dylan talking about fucking Sumerian or whatever. But the biggest fault of conspiracy thinking, beyond any particular asinine belief, is just a how do I put it? A hyper willingness to speculate. It's like speculation as the dominant mode of thinking, and taking speculation as fact. It's one thing to speculate. It's another if that is like the primary way you were thinking through affairs, and you're not constantly checking your speculation with, do I have evidence for this claim? Is there a way for me to know this? If your answer is that I can't know this, I'll never be, there's basically no way that I'll be able to like determine whether something is true or false, then there's no point in trying to organize your action around that speculation, right? There's just you're just in the wind, right? So I think that that's like really the thing that kind of drives me crazy is that, you know, I'll be talking to a quote unquote normie and they're like, there's a cabal of pedophiles that are eating children. And I'm like, okay, it's a speculation. It's plausible, I guess. Maybe it's possible is the better way, but it's not plausible. What's your evidence? And then they're just like, well, I don't fucking know. And, you know, why are you defending pedophiles? And I'm like, I'm not defending pedophiles. I want to know why you think what you think. What is your evidence? And people hate that. They hate when you ask that. I'm not just being a actually nerd when I'm asking for that, right? Like, you know.
Also, the other error that I find common in a lot of conspiracy thinking is the teleological error, where everything happens for a purpose. And that's a common like refrain you'll hear when like someone will kind of like point out like a bunch of connections, but not actually show the mechanism of connection. And they'll just be like, well, everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. And it's kind of this teleological point of view where there's no way that anything can kind of happen randomly, and that different events can kind of coalesce into a greater phenomenon, but instead everything has to be kind of guided by a greater almost spiritual force.
It's like
And
it's like the pre-Darwinian biologist.
right, exactly. Like I have a very almost like natural selection type view of history, where history is this process without a subject, where it really is kind of just a blind force, where yes, you do have conscious intentional actors who even sometimes act with collective intentionality, but in the end, like it is this blind process of different actors.
That reminds me a lot of like what people are sort of talking about now with the 9/11 and how like everyone's finding connections between like 9/11 and like people like Lutnick and Epstein.
Yeah, it's just the ever expanded grand unified theory of conspiracy.
Right. I mean, I think it's fine to ask questions about 9/11. Don't get me wrong, but I do think that the kind of everything happens for a reason, and then often that ends up going into this kind of like, well, this is all prophecies. This is all in the prophecy. Like, it's almost like there almost always is a kind of religious tendency in a lot of this type of thinking.
Alex Jones started off fairly secular in the way he spoke. Like,
Yeah.
you know, as a person who followed Alex Jones all the way back to the late 90s when it was I think I became aware of him around 2002, like right after 9/11.
Yeah.
And I knew people who listened to him when I was living in Georgia, it's where I grew up. It was weird to me how crypto religious it was, and as time has gone by, he's both been able to whitewash his name, even with people who normally have some sense, like Greg Greenwald coming to defend him. That was weird.
That's good. Greenwald's gotten worse and worse.
Yeah, Greenwald's all.
It's so funny that he used to be like an ISO guy.
Yeah, well, he was also on a LouRockwell.com guy, but like he's been all over the political spectrum in the course of his life. The weird thing though is I've been thinking about this is like, where's Hofstadter wrong and where's he right? Like, and then can we come up with a better explanation for why he? Because I don't think his general thesis that this is mostly about what like dispossession and in a kind of abstract sense is true, you know. I do think the Lukashian destruction of reason might play a role here, but then I also tend to think that overly focuses on like academics, and I don't like, you know, debates I've had with some people who like really were getting to me like how postmodernism ruined the left, and I'm like, the average union person I know has not read Derrida, like ever. You know, it just doesn't come up.
Yeah, but I think the argument you could make maybe is that like that style of theory and that style of philosophy led to like leftists not engaging with
I
people
agree.
in the same way. That's kind of the argument Chomsky, which is not the best person to cite.
I was going to say, it was maybe you might want to bring up Chomsky today. although to kind of like think about this in a world historical way, where did those post-Marxists come from? Well, they came out of the failure of the Communist Party of France. Like, there's a reason, like, that's material. Like, you can read Baudrillard, and Baudrillard's, like, I think theoretically somewhat hampering, particularly if you're telling me, like, after 2006 that Baudrillard was right in 2002 that we'd figured out the market and never the twain shall the business cycle affect us ever again, because computers or something. But or that, you know, somehow the fact that the Iraq war was shown on TV means that it didn't happen, which he didn't really mean, but kind of meant in this very vague, obnoxious way, in a DPD kind of way. But Baudrillard's like writing about why he got frustrated with the Communist Party of France is really illuminating. Like, it really is illuminating in a way that's like, oh, I see why you kind of went crazy.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that's the problem I have with Rockhill's like stuff is that like he doesn't really investigate why intellectuals had real reasons to be annoyed with Marxism, Leninism, and the Soviet Union, and like that there were like real reasons for them to be alienated by these things and not just be like basically Lacerdo type, you know, defenders of actually existing socialism and their philosophical careers. Like there were real factors that were making it hard for them to just buckle up and
Well,
do that and not
It's
divert
like when
from-
I hear people like Carlos Garrido say that capitalist rotors was invented, like the accusation of capitalist rotors was invented by the CIA, and I'm like, you can't read anything from China in the 1960s and tell me that. You just can't.
Yeah.
Like that's flat out wrong.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I was
so-
actually I was the student of Etienne Balibar for
Mhm.
a few years, and I spoke with him a lot. And at this point, he's basically like a social democrat. And I remember he went on this, he would tell me over and over again, like the Soviet Union was incredibly unjust. And you could just tell that he was just like so black-pilled about the Soviet Union and the FCP and stuff like that. And that like black-pilling really just explained almost everything about his thought today, and it's pretty depressing, to be honest. Just talking to him about it. Yeah, the FCP is just I don't know, like for instance, like if I had been who I am in France and I saw how they had responded to the Algerian Revolution, I don't think I would have been part of the FCP. I think I would. I think
I've been one of those weird Maoist sub factions that later made an ass of themselves. Is what I think would happened to me.
No, but I would have left the FCP, to be honest. I probably would have either organized just in a kind of like I probably would have joined FLN, to be honest.
Yeah. Or I might have I'm artsy enough. I might have got caught up in the situations for a while until I realized I was going to just do art.
But I think I would have been part of the FLN. I don't think I would have been. I mean, I think I would have been a Marxist, but I don't think I would have. I think they would have driven me from. I would have been disgusted. And
right. Well, that's a perfect example.
I think it's fair to be disgusted with their response to the. I mean, they did. In some ways, they were better than other people in the parliament or whatever, but in others, they voted for emergency powers and they supported French Empire, and that's a massive betrayal. I mean, it's a betrayal of the FCP at its origin. It's a betrayal of the commitments that the FCP took or made when they joined the Communist International. And yeah, I think it's legitimate to be pissed about that in the context of France.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame that on the Congress of Cultural Freedom.
No,
yeah, you can't.
Like there isn't some it's not like everything happens for a reason. Like every intellectual who turned from communism, and it wasn't the good Marxist Leninist who told the communist line and defended Stalin, they were just bought off. That's what happened. They were just bought off. There were no reasons why they would have changed their mind. It's like that's just not true. Obviously, that money, that cultural war.
Are you saying I would have been Bernard Henri Lévy? Are you kidding me? I'm an Arab. I can't be Bernard Henri Lévy.
Yeah,
what are you on about?
Yeah,
that's an insult.
Those
Jamal,
be
you should
fighting
not
words.
forgive that.
Those be fighting words.
What the hell, man? I'm not a hack like that either. Jesus, I would have been a communist, but I wouldn't have been an FCP.
But yeah, I think with the Hofstadter essay, he talks about in the last part of it, he kind of gives his kind of theory, and he cites Norman Cohn, who wrote that book In Pursuit of the Millennium, which is about
actively bad book that I used to be obsessed with when I was a right winger. But go ahead.
Yeah, it says the paranoid style is not confined to our own country and time. It is an international phenomenon. Studying the millennial sects of Europe from the 11th to 16th century, Norman Cohn believed that he found this persistent psychic complex that corresponds broadly with what I have been considering, a style made up of certain preoccupations and fantasies. Quote, the megalomaniac view of oneself as the elect, wholly good, abominably persecuted yet assured of the ultimate triumph, the attribution of gigantic and demonic powers of the adversary, the refusal to accept the ineluctable limitations and imperfections of human existence, such as transience, dissension, conflict, fallibility, whether intellectual or moral, the obsession with inerrable prophecies, systematized misinterpretations, always gross and often grotesque. So yeah, what's your take on that book, Varn?
Well, I mean, basically, it almost does the is it Eric von Kuhnlinen or Eric Vogelin? I always get this so confused. But what are
Eric
the
Vogelin's a Gnostic guy.
yeah the Gnostic guy who says that it's most leftism is trying to imitize the eschaton, which James Lindsay
yeah.
makes very stupid. But as a person who came out of Paleo, because right, we were taught that. So I read Cohen's book, and like it had some purchase to me that like, oh, this is all religious nonsense. And there is some truth that Marxists are a little bit uncomfortable with about our own weird relationship to like Christian thinking, mostly through Hegel. But it's I think it's a cop out. And it's very disingenuous to the good, like you want to defend like the good parts of peasant's brain. Like the Munster Rebellion is a good part of the peasant brain, god damn it. Like like the diggers are a good part of the peasant brain. It was there. They were picking up on the weird contradictions of Christianity, and it just bypassed it all. It's like, oh, it's just a rational hope to bring about the eschaton. It's like such a whatever is right mentality that's completely destructive. I was thinking about this with Hofstadter's like, oh, things are nuanced, and like Marxists admit, like we know, for example, maybe not every Marxist knows, but like as a tradition, we know that we cannot predict people's politics based off their class. Marx even talks about this. We can only predict like aggregate politics based off class. That the reason why there is a thing called the merger formula is that socialism like is not automatically inherent to the worker's mind. And socialists historically did not come from the working class, and that is true. It changes in the 20th century somewhat, but it's true. But we understand that things are messy. It still the pump of society is actually pretty simple forms of exploitation and domination.
Right.
It is not hard to explain. And these more complicated things like Epstein make sense when you start applying that to, I don't know, elite intercompetition within the bourgeoisie and their political representatives. Geopolitical hacking, because also, as I always say, geopolitics is downstream from the macroeconomy, but your local economy stuff is downstream from geopolitics. And like, if you understand that, the first thing that looks like to you is a conspiracy theory. It really does. And that's what I think, what Parenti was on about was right.
We were talking about, we proffered basically a functional explanation for the existence of a Jeffrey Epstein, right? He's a kind of person that facilitates extra legal, basically facilitates extra legal sort of collaboration between different factions of the bourgeoisie.
Yes, exactly.
Right. While on the other hand, being himself a class actor with certain interests.
Right.
But
that's lumpen bourgeoisie is what I call it.
He's a lumpen bourgeois with a very specific function in the bourgeois state and in the bourgeois economy.
I think it's important that we have to look at class traders from the working class, like J.D. Vance and Jeffrey Epstein. I actually talk about this a lot of like I whether or not you consider teachers working class is a great debate. I don't want to get into today. But my family was blue collar working class. I am white collar working class if we're generous. The one thing I will tell you about a lot of us who come out of the blue collar working class is we are pretty reactionary in our responses to the lumpenization of our prior class. Like we are. It's like. I recoil at disgust about stuff I see, and I mean, still, it's why I was a right winger for a while, because I was like, no, man, this working class, we have to make shit better for the workers. They deserve dignity, but like their lifestyle sucks. There's a couple ways you can go with that, but one of the ways you can do that is to be a absolutely sociopathic, apolitical striver, and some of the best traitors. Some of the best members of the lumpen bourgeoisie were born in the lower ends of the white collar and the blue collar parts of society. And I think leftists have a hard time with that. But because they're like, oh, if we just have worker leaders, I'm like, well, Jeffrey Epstein, his origins are working class, kind of. JD Vance, I know it's hard for us to imagine grandparents who could buy stock from working on the assembly line, but you could do that in Fordist America. You can't do it now. Sorry. And yeah, that means that every American in the Fordist time period was also kind of sort of a fraction capitalist in some small, tiny ass way. But that was most of the blue collar working class. You can't say, oh, he's just not that. No, the Vance had help. He had patrons, and he's a slime ball. That's how he got out of the situation in the first place. We as communists have to be more honest about that, and looking at Epstein as a way to do that. And that, like, those actors are some of the most brutal people you're going to deal with. Now, like I think the average working class person, I think the average person of any class doesn't want to believe their class is evil. Right. And I don't think the working class is evil, but you don't even want to believe that you could produce those kinds of things. And the easiest way to think about that is like, oh, well, these patronage people, they must be in league with the devil. Because in a way, they kind of are, in a metaphorical way. I'm not like when someone's like, oh, I believe that, you know, there's a secret cabal of pedophile, Satan worshiping child eaters. I'm like, well, okay, I pretty much know the first one's true. And while I think it's really dangerous to believe the second two literally, metaphorically, you're not totally wrong.
Well, they just killed like 140 children in a school in Iran. So they may not literally eat children, but it's not like they won't kill children to achieve their goals.
Like,
and look what happened in Gaza.
Yeah, we sacrifice children all the fucking time. Just to the economy, not to the devil.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think the whole like devil sacrifice stuff, it does like it's part of what makes people more interested in it. It makes it less kind of banal and more like exciting than just the usual kind of like children dying of lack of nutrition or dying from child labor accidents in third world countries. You know,
I think interesting might be it adds gravity or seriousness, or
like it turns it into like a battle between good and evil. But exactly. it also passivizes them, because what are you supposed to do against the devil?
Yeah. Also, somebody asked who is BHL. It's Bernard Henry Levy. You want to go into this one, Jean-Mil?
No, I don't. I hate him.
Okay, he was a French intellectual in the 1970s who became a neocon, basically.
He's not. He's a mediocrity.
He's a mediocrity.
He's a mediocre neocon in the French context, who also is so obnoxious that when he went into a debate with Alexander Dugin,
I was going to say,
he lost to Dugin. He
lost the debate to Alexander Dugin
so badly that I'm like, man, he just made Dugin look really reasonable. And this is the guy who basically
you make Alexander Dugin look like a normal, reasonable guy. That's not good, man. You're not doing good, bro. And yeah, he's still alive. I think he's a big supporter of the Gaza genocide.
He's a huge. He might be he's a huge supporter of Israel.
Yeah, definitely a big supporter of the war in Iran.
Definitely.
I don't even need to check. I can just guess that.
He's probably trying to get Macron to get the Charles de Gaulle over to Iran now. Like, the other thing about the paranoid style, though, and this is I'm gonna see this as a believer in free speech and free expression and in free press. I really do believe in that.
Yeah,
I want to be very clear on that. But man, have we allowed, like, culturally? I don't mean like a lot of bullshit to be proffered to explain things. Bring it back to Candace Owens, but like. And I guess it's something you just kind of have to deal with in a society with a free press. But this is why I get mad at people. Like, I'm not a big no platformer, particularly for like moral issues. I'm not. But there are times where I'm like, yeah, that shit's crazy. You shouldn't buy it and you shouldn't share it because it's nuts. Like, it's funny, but the way that people shared Alex Jones, for example, because of this of how funny he seemed to be a large part of his engagement and growth strategy.
Yeah, you're right. It's like you take Nick Fuentes, for example. Like, part of how he's kind of been able to get legitimacy is because he will say like individual things that are true and reasonable, and clip them and put them all over the internet and create a false impression of, you know, of him being more reasonable than he really is. And then you'll realize, oh wait, he's a white nationalist who thinks that
It's foot in the door
saved, you know. And but the thing is like people have find ways to, you know, make these crank, you know, figures sound more reasonable and then get into the door. And I think capitalist interests fund this stuff because they benefit from spreading confusion and spreading chaos.
I think someone like Peter Thiel is highly cognizant of that.
Yes.
I think Peter Thiel is highly cognizant that, in fact, beyond trying to propagandize the masses to love capital, because the form of capitalism he wants will be basically impossible to sell to the working class. What you need to do
anybody.
What you need to do is confuse the masses. You need to just spread confusion and mental malaise. I think that someone like Peter Thiel is highly cognizant of that.
Yeah, hence why he's like on both sides of the satanic panic all the time.
Yeah.
Like a guy who's literally lecturing Christians about the Antichrist, who also hangs out with a guy who calls himself Karazhan, the demon of disillusion.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like at Thiel, people read Thiel's memo that got leaked about people not loving capitalism anymore. It's like, oh, he was somehow supportive of some kind of populism as an answer to socialism. I'm like, no, that's not what he's saying. He's saying push irrationality because we can't convince them to love capitalism in a like libertarian rational way anymore. We're not even going to try. I would say this. I've even said this about Tucker Carlson. I mentioned this like forgotten debate between Eric Alterman, a guy that no one thought about since the mid-aughts, the founder of Alternet, if you don't know who he is, and Tucker Carlson. Yeah, and Tucker Carlson, where Tucker Carlson talks about conspiracy theories spreading in highly broken societies, and his example was Egypt. You know, about people believing in the Masons so they don't have to deal with the government's collusion with Israel. You know, Tucker Carlson just said it outright. And I do wonder when he talks about all of this demon stuff, I'm like, does he know that he's doing the thing that he was talking about? And I think he must at some level, even if he also believes it, because he is probably a Catholic, I think.
Yeah, the demon stuff. First I was like, what is the demon stuff? Like, oh wait, he's Catholic, so
right. So I mean, he might believe it, but he also knows that he's taking advantage of a society that's fundamental institutions are falling apart because he's talked about it before. Now he's kind of, I mean, for a rabid reactionary, he's actually fairly principled as far as it goes. So imagine what the people who aren't are like, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about like, why were people pushing the satanic panic and all the apocalyptic shit in the 80s? And I'm like, well, it gets people not looking at what the government's doing and with Iran Contra and this and that. I've also thought about this, like, I think it's almost been proven now, but even as a teenager, I'm like, you know, if I was the American military and I was doing secret weapons tests, maybe convincing people that it was all aliens.
Oh yeah, no, I totally believe that UFOs are secret military technology. Like I've been convinced of that one completely.
Tucker's a WASP producer. She is a Catholic. Okay, maybe he's a Lutheran.
I think he is a Protestant. Yeah, I don't know.
But Thiel's not a Catholic, right?
Who? Yeah, Thiel's
the trad Catholic.
Well, I know that.
Well, he's a weird kind of Catholic.
Yeah, I thought Thiel was like a weird kind of Protestant who's like.
No, I thought he was a Catholic because of René Girard.
Yeah, hold on. Let me.
Yeah.
Although I have trouble believing that a polyamorous gay man really believes in traditional Catholicism.
He's a self-described Orthodox Christian who identifies as Lutheran.
Oh wow.
Oh, well, the worst form of
another
demerit for the new.
Yeah,
because the only thing worse than Catholic is Protestant. No,
he has his own weird take on Christianity about the Antichrist, where it's obviously just him making it up as he goes.
It's just circumlocutions, to be honest. He doesn't really fucking give a shit about anything religious.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's total sociopathic
Like,
shit.
Vance, I want you to be Catholic, but I'm gonna be a weird kind of Lutheran.
What are these conversations even like?
I don't know, man. They're just God, such.
Oh, interesting. So so Carlson is apparently a traditional conservative Christian, and it looks like an Episcopalian. So Catholic light.
Yeah.
So Protestant, but like he's probably some high church Cardinal Newman guy.
It's so hard for me to tell when Tucker is also being like genuine or when he's just like reading off like CIA talking points.
So, I mean, that's the thing about him. Like he says good things, and at other times I'm like, but you still show up to this White House even after you critique them. Like,
right. He'll be like, we don't hate. We are Christians. We don't believe in hate. We believe all human life has value. But then he'll be like, and that's why we need mass deportations now. It's like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you can't like be spouting all this universal love and brotherhood shit and then be talking about mass deportations. Like, that doesn't add up, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Hofstadter essay is interesting to me because, like, if anything, it shows a bugbear of the liberal mind. And I've been accused of this too, because there are times where I have been like, hey, we don't need to go down, you know, a certain path. I had a relationship to the 9/11 truth movement, never was like a true truther. But I do actually believe, even to this day, that the government knew more than it let on and is hiding like massive level incompetence and collusion with probably Saudi state forces, that it just didn't see what was coming and hit it. Just like I'm a government incompetence truther on the JFK assassination, where like my conspiracy theory is like the Secret Service accidentally shot him in response to Oswald shooting at him. Like, those are things, and I don't know that, and I don't speculate it openly. I just, like, my rules of and knowledge of how the government generally works is like they usually are hiding incompetence. But
I think JFK, it's a bit I think that I don't know. I'm actually a bit more peasant brained on this.
Yeah, same. I think it was the CIA for sure.
I think it was
the CIA,
the mob, and the Cubans. You know,
because JFK wanted to shut it down.
Why?
Why he wanted to shut it down? I guess because of Bay of Pigs.
Okay,
and he knew that he couldn't like control it. It was sort of like, I guess, a parastate. But I
can believe that. That is rational to me. What I don't believe is that either he was a secret anti-globalist or a secret communist.
Oh, hell
no.
Because I've had people try to convince me he was convinced of the truth of communism, and I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Insane. That's absolutely insane. What? No, I think that he was just too comfortable with détente than the CIA higher ups were. I think he was saying stuff that was making them nervous.
And I think that the mob didn't think he was a reliable figure to get back into Cuba.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, were they wrong about that?
They were not.
I think JFK, like, he was an anti-communist. He was, you know, American militarist, but he also realized that the game that they were playing in Cuba was genuinely dangerous, and that some kind of détente with the Soviet Union was probably the more rational path.
Well, he was supposed to have shunted John Dulles after Bay of Pigs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he threw him under the bus, I think.
Yeah, he did. He said he wanted to break the CIA into 1,000 pieces.
Yeah.
And it's funny because in the Paranoid style, they do mention Dulles, but he's mentioned as someone that was suspected of being a communist by the McCarthyists, which is funny.
Which is hilarious because
everyone's a communist to McCarthy.
Well, I mean, to say like
history wins for Mr. Welch an insight into affairs as given the few of us. Quote, for many reasons,
accused Eisenhower of being a communist.
Like, I personally believe John Dulles to be a communist agent.
I mean, that is part of the problem. I mean, this is probably the problem with the Birchers and the Paranoid stuff in the Cold War, is everybody was a communist agent. But I do think it also led to in the response to it, liberals were like, when the Popular Front never happened.
Yeah.
Like Like, we've never ever had communists in our party. What are you talking about? They were like, it's just wild to me that, you know, when you think about like Lorraine Hansberry meeting Robert Kennedy when she was still in the CPU USA, and I've always found it funny that like Birchers don't make a lot of that, and I'm like, but also liberals try to convince you that it never happened too. Like,
Yeah.
because they're like, Birchers said it was true, so it's not true. And I'm like, no, there was all kinds of shit going on. I mean, like, it wasn't very effective. The communists definitely weren't in control of the Democrats. That's for absolute.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's true that communists like work in the federal government and stuff, but it's also true that they weren't really a threat to anyone, and they didn't really intend to be a threat to anyone because they just weren't. They were popular frontists.
Yeah. I mean,
No, that said, you know, they probably did get nuclear secrets and did get them to the Soviets, but
that was earlier.
yeah, that was way earlier, and it was also a good thing. So
Yeah, to be honest, I mean,
could you imagine a world where we're the only people with nuclear power?
I know, exactly.
Like,
no, for real. I mean, at this point, like the fucked up thing is that somehow, in some cases, nuclear proliferation might actually be the safer option.
yeah, I was about to say, I'm now almost to the weird 90s libertarian position that maybe everybody should have a nuclear weapon,
including, you know, us at our own home.
Yeah. No, I'm not.
Cosmonaut should have the bomb.
Give Cosmonaut the bomb.
I actually am coming around to that in a serious sense.
The greatest guarantee of the non-aggression principle is everyone has a mini nuke.
Well, I don't think it's a coincidence that ever since North Korea acquired the capability to launch a nuke at Tokyo, they've stopped trying to topple that government.
Oh no, yeah, no. I mean, if you are not liked by the US or you're on their shit list, the only genuine guarantee of sovereignty at this point is that you have some fucking nukes and intercontinental ballistic missiles, because otherwise they will fuck your shit up. Gaddafi, why did you give up?
Every now and then I read the nuclear writings of the State Department that have been declassified from before the Soviets got it, and oh my god, were we willing to destroy the fucking world? Like, because we didn't believe we were going to destroy the world. We're like, I'm like,
just drop a bomb on North Korea.
Yeah,
during the Korean War.
Like, I don't know, Guatemala. Like, like it's, you know, and the craziest thing was the mission to build a nuclear bomb that just killed people but left infrastructure and stuff intact. Like, which I don't even know how that would work, but like they were trying, like, because then you really don't have a reason not to nuke people, because you get their stuff. It's just like,
I mean, I'm guessing what it is you just irradiate. How you would achieve, you know, that
you'd radiate everything, but I don't know how that wouldn't just make everything mutate to shit.
It wouldn't. Okay.
It's like a cancer bomb at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It kind of like,
so it would make everything mutate, but in cancer. Got it.
I mean, that's a biological. If you wanted to do that, you could use a biological weapon of some kind.
You know, I mean, the point is that, well, the thing is like, in order to produce the kind of, at that point, the only way people really knew how to produce the kind of radiation that would, like, you know, mutation is what? It's highly energetic particles puncturing DNA, right?
Yeah, you're right.
And the only way that they knew in weapon form to produce that kind of radiation was through fission, which comes with giant explosions. So I don't know how it would have worked if you weren't going to rely on that.
Would it be a fusion bomb? I mean, not that that would exist right now. Not that I even know.
No, that wouldn't exist. Yeah, that would also cause massive explosions.
Okay.
So I'm not sure.
Not a physics guy.
I'm not sure how they would do that, to be honest.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of shit that they were floating that I'm not sure anyone knew how anyone would do. To be fair, they like the imagination of empire to kill people right after World War II was pretty insane.
Okay, to be the mad scientist, if you could somehow produce compounds that have a very short half-life, but which give off like alpha particles or something like that, and you could create material that could mutate. But the thing is once again, if it's like a highly energetic particle, it'll also pierce through stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like concrete or whatever, right? So I don't know, but then it also will depend on the wavelength of the. It's complicated. It's a complicated story, basically.
You know what freaks me out is that Israel has nukes, and that the government is controlled by a bunch of religious psychos who think that they're a superior race. You know,
Actual millenarians with
extra
nuclear
millenarian.
weapons.
They want to build greater Israel. They think they're a superior race. They have the world hegemon. It's government completely backing them.
I'm waiting for like the Shahs or one of the religious parties to like just formally have the government bulldoze the Dome of the Rock.
Yes, that
Like-
is, yeah. I mean, like, that's one of the things that was like kind of dismissed as like a peasant brain conspiracy or whatever. It's like, oh, you're just like some crazy Muslim or you're some crazy anti-Semite who thinks that, you know, the Dome of Rock is going to get burnt down, and you know, you're just, you know, crazy for thinking that. That's not a real thing that's happening. But it's like, no, read what the Israelis are saying, and they want to take down the Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Well, and they had Protestants.
That will be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be bad. That'd
Yeah.
be real bad.
Yeah.
And I know they convinced Protestants of it because in 2000 I was a student teacher in 2006 when I was 26, and I was in a middle school, a middle school charter school, and this teacher did a presentation that I don't know how the hell it was legal, about needing to reestablish the temple.
Oh my God.
And this was not a Jewish woman. This was a middle-aged conservative Baptist teacher, and I was like, what in the world? And like talking about giving money to bring back to genetically engineer a red heifer, and I was like,
That's insane.
I was like, as a person who knows Jewish stuff, this is nuts. Why do you care about this? This is, this is Israeli right-wing talking points. So
I don't think that like American Protestants understand the extent to which Zionists have instrumentalized their religious beliefs. Like they don't really understand that.
I argue with a friend of mine who's like, well, why do you come down on Christian Zionists so much? It's an inter-Jewish problem. And I'm like, well, it is, but also like there are more Christian Zionists than there are any kind of Jew. Just by numbers. If I assume like only 10% of Protestants in America are Christian Zionists, which is pretty maybe low, there are more of them than the entire world Jewry together. Like, I don't think people realize. One thing about Americans, they don't realize that like there aren't that many Jews.
Yeah.
Like, and there's more in America than Israel, which is another thing I don't think people realize.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Well, the Christian Zionists. I do think that sometimes, like, you know, liberal Jews will try to like displace blame onto them, but like I don't want them to not be blamed either, because like they are psychotic and they are
number one fundraiser
bigoted.
for weird shit in Israel.
I mean, I was radicalized dealing with these people when I was younger, honestly, just how insane the evangelical Christians were,
Yeah,
And,
they're insane. These people are nuts. It's so much peasant brain shit going on, man. I think we've coined this peasant brain. I don't
well,
know.
it's not. We didn't coin it. It's been
But
that
yeah.
term's
Thought we'd
but
come
y-
up with something
sack
else.
of potatoes, as Marx says in the 18th Brumaire.
I mean,
But yeah,
here's the thing. Like, we know about the Samson option. We know that Israel, even though they still won't admit it, some fucking how, got American nuclear secrets and produced. I think we used to think it was like 3 bombs, but now it's probably up to like 26 or something. I've heard a lot of speculative numbers, but it's not insignificant now. I mean, since 74, even though they won't say they have nukes, they've all kind of like Katzer kind of admitted they have nuclear capacity. Dayan admitted they have nuclear capacity. Perez admitted they had nuclear capacity. You had Omar admitted in 2006. I mean, like,
Yeah.
we know. we also know where they got it. We probably just gave it to them, to be quite honest.
Well, I think they worked with South Africa to get their nukes. I think that was one thing I read.
Well, I mean, the funny thing, I was talking about this. I've talked about this a lot in the terms of one of the ironies of the George Herbert Walker Bush administration is one of the reasons why BDS was more successful in South Africa is that George Herbert Walker Bush, wouldn't even acknowledge apartheid existed, but he did get South Africa to denuclearize. Ain't nobody doing that to Israel. You're not going to just talk them out of it. And, I suspect what happened in South Africa is part of why. But it's interesting and scary. And at this point, I am also sure like, well, maybe everybody needs nuclear weapons. Screw it.
Yeah, it's either everybody denuclearizes or no one does.
Yeah.
Actually, it's interesting. Shahak, the one Israel Shahak book I haven't read yet is this book on the nuclear policies of Israel. So I got to check that out.
Yeah, I mean, if to tie it back to Iran, there's some people wondering right now what would have happened if they we probably would not be at war right now. I mean,
yeah, if Iran built the nuke, they would have been sanctioned to hell, but they would not be under attack.
It's funny because Orientalists like Bernard Lewis used to say over and over again that the Islamic Republic was extremely dangerous because they were millenarian and you couldn't trust them, and they would irrationally attack everyone and everything. And it's like, dude, shut the fuck up. You got that shit so wrong. It's crazy.
Right. How many? Yeah, I was about to say, what millenarian governments do we have right now? I mean,
ISIS,
and this is
to the extent that it's still a thing in Israel.
Not a thing, really. I mean, okay.
I'd include the U.S. honestly.
Yeah,
the U.S.
The
U.S.
Trump is just doing whatever to get he's so desperate, man. He's so desperate.
I mean, this is the thing. He does not. I will say this: he does not seem to be happy right now. He really seems to have been convinced by someone that they could just do the same thing they did with Maduro, and secretly there's enough people in the Revolutionary Guard to have supported the ouster of the Supreme Cleric. That makes.
My feeling is that the Iranian state capacity hasn't been degraded to the same degree that Venezuela has. I mean,
well, and also there's less traitors.
Yeah,
it's a completely different social situation.
I don't know, man. There seems to be a lot of traitors in Iran because every time there's a war, they kill half their leadership, which means that they know where they are.
Well, the difference is in Venezuela, elements of the Venezuelan state gave up Maduro willingly. I don't think. I mean, you're not going to see the same thing from Iran.
Yeah, I resisted that interpretation at first, but now I think
I didn't.
I think it's very clear that.
Yeah, I did. I mean,
that the Rodriguez faction gave them up.
But I think you're right.
I mean, how else were they going to know exactly where he is and with minimal casualties take him, etc.
I mean, yeah, they only killed 100 something Venezuelans. No, not even 70 Venezuelans and 32 Cubans. And given the technologies they were using, that's really low. Because we have heard reports about the crazy tech they were testing out. So
I'm a bit confused what you want us to say. If every
you're talking about this guy in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, what do you want us to say? Is it really our priority right now, criticizing the Iranian government?
Well, that's for Iranians to what is the U.S. The U.S. isn't going to make that situation any better by bombing them.
Yeah, what do you want us to do? Cheer on a war that is only going to make everything worse?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you want us to say.
Listen, I don't think any of us have been big fans of the Iranian government.
No, I'm not one of these people arguing that the Iranian regime was somehow secretly communist, or that the massacres of protesters weren't happening.
Yeah, I think we even we talked about the protesters and all of that on another stream. It's not like we're happy about that and that we
Yeah, but we're also
fans. I'm
We're
not
also-
cry- I'm not crying for a dictatorial regime. I'm crying for what's gonna happen with the war. You know, like
Yeah, it's just not my priority shitting on the Iranian government. You know, I mean, it depends what you mean, all of them, because many of them, I'm not so sure, want to replace it with a pro-Western government. And every time there's these attacks, they kind of circle the wagon, and there seems to be quite a lot of social unity, which is why after so many years of pulverizing the economy and inflicting military and other forms of that the regime doesn't collapse, right? I mean,
I think the point is you either believe in sovereignty or you don't. Like,
yeah, I mean,
or-
I don't know.
or-
I don't know what you want us to say, really, because it's,
Okay, let's say this. Okay, let's say that the Iranians overthrow their government and they institute a democratic republic. Israel is not going to be happy with that either, because
Yeah.
that
Right.
government is probably going to be anti-Israel.
yes,
There's
They're
a lot
going to
of
want to have a
speculation that
strong military. They're going to want to be able to defend themselves. They're going to want a strong economy. All things that Israel is going to not want, and that is going to mean they're going to want to continue destroying that country.
yeah,
And so, in the end, no matter what, the Iranian people having any kind of sovereignty, any kind of genuine economic growth, any kind of genuine stability is going to be a threat to Israel.
yeah.
And
What
Israel's
Israel
going
wants,
to try to destroy that, and they're going to have to defend themselves. So it's not about the Iranian
Yeah.
regime so much as the defense of the Iranian nation.
why is this war happening? It has nothing to do with theocracy. It has nothing to do with the democratic character of Iran, right? Israel is terrified of Iran because Iran is huge territorially, very rich in natural resources, has a highly educated population, and if it weren't utterly crippled by sanctions, would eventually become the regional hegemon, right? So they're terrified of that prospect. So they're trying to do everything possible to destabilize and carve up Iran. That's really what motivates Israel's animus towards Iran. It has nothing to do with their anti-Zionism, has nothing to do with their with theocracy, has nothing to do with democracy. It has to do with the fact that they are a potential regional hegemon, right? And that's what motivates this war. It has nothing to do with the Iranian people. It has nothing to do with any of the Israelis could give a shit. If they could, they would eliminate every
Yeah.
single Iranian on the planet.
I guarantee you the Saudis aren't supporting us in this because they want Iranian democracy. And if
Yeah.
the reports are true about where some of the bombs hit yesterday, they were also very close to some opposition leaders. That may have just been an accident. We don't know. But given what it seems like the focus has been on Pavlovas as opposed to green revolutionaries this time. It does seem like they very much want a conservative monarchy. And by they, I don't know that the U.S. cares, but Israel definitely does.
Yeah.
Kush, look, there has been mismanagement of certain resources, but almost every economist, any honest economist, left, right, agrees that the sanctions have absolutely pulverized the Iranian economy, and that the currency crisis that you're seeing right now has a huge amount to do. In fact, is almost completely caused by these economic sanctions, which were imposed around 2012. So this is 13 or 14 years of deleterious sanctions just pulverizing the Iranian economy. So you saying that it has to do with the pilferage by the Iranian Revolutionary Force is false. It's the destruction of the economy and the fact that there's been the establishment of multiple exchange rates that has actually bred or promulgated corruption.
Right.
Because it's allowed people who have access to the state exchange rate to basically buy up foreign goods and sell them on the black market. You're getting the causal chain reversed, in other words, right? The predominant reason that the Iranian economy is where it is has nothing to do with corruption. It has to do with the fact that sanctions have pulverized the economy. These sanctions are incredibly effective. They're incredibly effective. Basically, you are not allowed to import or export anything you are sanctioned for, right? And it's not just stuff from the US, it's basically any bank or foreign organization. Because if the US catches wind that, for instance, you trade with Switzerland or whatever, then the Americans can say, well, then we're going to punish you, Switzerland, for trading with Iran. And it's extremely effective. This system is extremely effective. So I don't know what you want us, I don't know what you want us to say. Like,
Do you want us to be like cheering in the streets in LA with the monarchist?
I really don't.
I guess they just want us to say like, yeah, cool. Khomeini's gone, but that's not the end of the story.
Khomeini's gone. Oh, okay. So what? Like, that doesn't mean anything at this point. Like,
I mean, it means a lot of nothing. I mean, like, I just look. The green zone right now probably is being is having a Shia government shoot at Shia protesters to protect American assets in Iraq, which means that this has destabilized things far beyond this regime. Now, if, for example, the government fell from the protesters, that might still happen. I would be saying very different things about that. Like, if it happened organically, you might go, well, it'll never happen organically. And then I'm like, well, then why are you a leftist anyway?
Yeah.
Like, because that would also imply it's never going to happen here, where the military barriers are even higher. We haven't denied, like, for example, we were talking about earlier today, like the amount of protesters come at the government. We didn't sugarcoat it or deny that it happened. Like, I don't know what the numbers really are. No one really does, but it's not insignificant.
Yeah, and it's also like, as you're saying, like Varn, we don't know the numbers. We also don't know exactly what happened on the ground, because there seems to be independently corroborated evidence that there was also armed conflict.
Yes.
And that a minority though, but not insignificant, a minority of protesters were armed with like automatic weaponry and explosives. That's not protesters. Those are insurgents that have infiltrated protests, that have spurred it on, et cetera, et cetera. So you also can't take away from the fact that, of course, in the abstract, we stand with the masses in fighting whatever oppressive regime, but in the concrete, there's also color revolution. And the U.S. and the Israelis are highly effective at basically fomenting color revolution.
Well, protests in Iran happen all the time, but they don't become that violent all the time.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
I just fail to understand what dropping bombs on them from U.S. Navy ships and warships is supposed to do.
Yeah, it's just pure destruction. Like, all the U.S. empire can do right now is just export destruction
and barbarism.
Like, it's not gonna give Iranians democracy.
No,
only Iranians can do that.
Yeah. I guess like Trump's like, whoa, we're gonna get rid of the obstacle and we're gonna just leave you to figure it out. It's just like, no, that's not how these things work.
No, it's
particularly not.
And it's also not what they want to do. Like, they want a particular regime in place. That's why they have Pahlavi waiting in the wing.
Well, I mean, we have to be clear about they here, because I do think maybe Trump really believes that this was like, we get rid of the regime, they'll figure it out. Because it does, if you look at what the U.S. is doing, it does seem like they don't really have a plan for beyond this strike, other than maybe striking more. Israel has a plan. They've been planning on this for a long time,
and they know that they want. So from what I'm gathering, they want Pahlavi. They like that. They like that monarchist diaspora, because they know that they are Zionists. Many of them are like rabid Zionists. They're insane.
I'm sorry to say, but Israel tends to get what Israel wants.
At this point, it seems,
especially with this president.
If there's no U.S. plan for what happens after, then
those videos must be wild.
Then it's the Israeli plan is the American plan. I'm willing to proffer that.
I only imagine the kind of conversations he's having with Hegseth. Like,
well, what I imagine is like it's probably going to be the American plan, because the American internal military apparatus is at odds with itself, and it's led by not just Trump, but also a television figure who, the day before this fucking happened, decided the most important thing he could do was cut off all contracts with the Ivy League universities. Like, right before going into a war.
I know.
Like, so clearly they didn't think this through. I mean, maybe we're all bumbling towards freedom, but
that's
you gotta
sorry, but it's not entirely clear what you're saying. Like, there's no evidence that the monarchy is actually popular. Like, that's just There's
No,
no.
there isn't.
I've not
Yeah,
seen
even
anything
Trump
like that.
admitted that the monarchy isn't popular enough to really
Yeah.
be a credible opposition.
If you listen
And
to
you
us,
have people like Giuliani and Pompeo, as Robert over here says, promoting the MEK, who are probably even more fringe and crazy than the monarchists.
yeah,
So it's just, like I said, it's just pure. We're just exporting pure destruction.
and they don't get, ultimately what they want is some government that has like the patina of popularity, but that finally is compliant to U.S. and Israeli
I was
interests.
about to say,
Like,
like,
and if they
Iran is-
can't find that popular force, which they will not, because Iranians are actually by and large really anti-Zionist, then then they don't give a shit about the popular aspect. They'll just put whoever is in power and whoever is compliant to their interests, and that means it will be an oppressive and repressive regime, because it'll have to go against the desires of the Iranian people and how they want to relate to something like
I
Israel.
was about to say, like, for all the critiques we can make of the Iranian regime, we can easily say that their anti-Zionism is like one of the few things they were legitimately popular on.
Mr. President, what's your
Uh-oh.
Yeah, hold on. I got a we gotta end soon, but somebody mentioned this clip of Trump, and I just found it.
I don't think anyone said it is, but
Hold on, wait.
But once again, like legitimate economic protests in the context of a besieged country that's been pulverized by
Mr. President, what's your main
14 years of-
objective?
actually more 14 years of economic sanction.
Mr. President, what is your main objective? What is it?
So this is what he's doing now. He's just getting photo ops with the Thomas Jefferson statue.
What's the statue?
What's your message to the families of the service members who were killed?
Oh my God, he's just ignoring them.
I think he's also like senile.
Should
I
have manufactured a little more consent.
Yeah, should have manufactured more.
I mean, I guess they're trying to do it because of Death to America chants today, but I mean, that's not, I mean, like, like even Khomeini was like very clear. It's like when we say Death to America, we mean Donald Trump and the government. We don't have any beef with the American people, which is, nicer than some leftists are. And two, like, no fucking shit they would do that right now. Like, I just, like, you might say, oh, well, you can't have a revolution without breaking some eggs, but like, usually those eggs aren't a school of elementary school children. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
like 100+ dead children.
I know.
In the first day of strikes, like Jesus Christ. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and I mean, also it has to be asked, is this targeted? I mean, what is the likelihood of hitting a children's school during school hours? Like, what is, what I'm saying? Was it targeted?
I mean, Baruch Goldstein on Purim in 1994 massacred the Cave of Patriarchs, women, children.
I can't believe that journalists at CNN mentioned Amalek. I was like, oh my God.
like, we have to understand.
Like every anti-Semite's wet dream you just put in print.
I know. Like, it's like they are in a religious mania and they are acting out this narrative, this eschatology. And it's just...
That weirdly looks like what every like weird crypto Nazi of the past 30 years thought.
I know.
Like, it's like, are you trying to prove them right? My God, man.
I know.
That's my one conspiracy theory, is that they are actually trying to create anti-Semites.
I one last Epstein connection and leave it at that so we can end off. But I think we have evidence that there's a lot of people who are trying to create Nazis and anti-Semites.
Oh yeah,
it that had ties to the Israeli state. I think we have pretty hard evidence of that now. Actually, like I don't know. like some of the parties that the Israelis will talk to in Europe.
Oh
like,
yeah. No. They,
Oh,
they
yeah.
cavort all the time with fash and neo-fash.
like,
Orban is a huge supporter of Israel, and he's an anti-Semite. Yeah, like
yeah. I mean, it sort of
So-
makes sense because you like, well, if the final solution didn't work, the solution is send them the fuck away. Like,
I think they also like not only is there like this like strategy to worsen anti-Semitism so that they can like say, oh look, they're basically to affirm their raison d'etre.
Yeah.
But I think they also spiritually see so much in each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's like genuine ideological like admiration, and they see each other in each other, right?
yeah,
They're,
I guess
they're
the
a patch-
position.
they're a pair made in hell, or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I actually used to
Match
talk
made
about
in
this with Zionists because I'd be like, you can't be like for open, like what the actual anti-Semite Ken McDonald used to say, oh, the Jews are for open society everywhere else, but not Israel. And I would say like, well, it is a little fucked up when you're like Pat Buchanan for your own society at minimum, but you're open society for everybody else. But I think they just realized that like, no, we're just not even going to pretend to be that. We are just nationalist in the old mode. Like,
Right. And that's the thing is like the Nick Fuentes style, like, anti-Semitism, they're still trying to say that like, oh, well, the left-wing Jews that don't like Israel, they're still part of the problem because they want open borders and love brown people. But it's like, well, is that
Israel
really,
isn't doing that shit these days at all. It's not doing
it's
that
like,
at all.
it's not a thing anymore. Like, there's like the few communist Jews that I know, and that's it. Like, like that's just not like it's Zionism is now the thing, and they have no interest in like supporting open borders for the West because they think that open borders for the West means that Muslims are going to come in and ruin it or whatever. So it's
and that was like a favorite thematic of Hitler, was like this notion that the Jew is like a bearer of the Bolshevik disease. And
yeah,
like
that's totally gone. That's not a thing anymore.
it's-
And like, yeah, no, it's
depressing. We're in the worst timeline.
we really are
Kinda
in the
are.
worst timeline, man. All right, guys. Well,
Sorry to leave it on that note.
yeah, depressing note to end on, but we keep it real here.
Thank you, Varn, for coming on. We always really,
Thanks for coming on. Always a pleasure.
it's always great to have you.
Yep.
As always, sign up for the Patreon if you can. Like and subscribe on YouTube and Twitch, and check out Varn's stuff on Varn Vlog.
Yeah,
on
good
YouTube.
stuff. Very good stuff.
All right.
And have a good rest of your Sunday night.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, everyone.